That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Boy Behind the Door, the directorial debut of David Charbonier and Justin Powell, which is actually being released after their sophomore film, The Djinn. Shudder will be streaming it on July 29th, 2021.
We reviewed The Djinn.
We did.
I don't remember it, though. Did we like it?
It was okay.
Okay.
It's got the same little boy, Ezra Dewey.
The subject matter for this film is quite sensitive. So if abuse against children would trigger you, then probably don't want to hear about this movie.
Suggested abuse.
Suggested, yeah. The basic story is two boys who appear to be like maybe 10 or 11 are kidnapped.
Prepubescent.
Adolescent, yeah. Well, I don't know. What's an adolescent, like 12?
Yeah.
They look like 10 or 11. Okay. They're kidnapped, Bobby and Kevin. Bobby is played by...
Lonnie Chavis.
He's little black boy, which is important. And then the other one, Ezra, is Kevin. Okay. They're kidnapped, and Kevin is brought into the house, like the abductor's house. And Bobby is left in the trunk. Bobby's able to finagle his way out of the trunk, and he hears Kevin screaming for help. So he has to make a decision. Is he going to run away and try to get help, or run into the house and help his friend? He chooses to help his friend, like immediately. So we see a man pull up to the house and meet the abductor, and in exchange for money, the man who drove up is given a watch with like a timer on it. Mm-hmm. So we presume that this man has just paid this person money to like sexually abuse this boy. So he makes his way down there. We hear Kevin screaming, but while that's happening, Bobby enters the house because the abductor has left. We see the abductor drive away. Bobby breaks into the house and creates a loud noise, which startles the abuser before, I'm assuming, he could do anything to the little boy. And then they have a standoff. So now Bobby has been confronted with this abuser. They call him the creep, I think, in the credits. And in that exchange, the creep ends up being stabbed to death. Okay, so now Bobby is like in a race against time because we're presuming when the timer goes off, the abductor will return. Bobby's trying to figure out how to get Kevin out of locked in the basement. So he's searching everywhere. Kevin is wearing a shock collar. So there's a pretty elaborate system to keep the individual wearing the shock collar from leaving the house. Mm-hmm. The abductor returns, but before that happens, Bobby is able to find a landline, call 911. He has to hang up before the call is traced, but ultimately the call is traced. The gag is the police show up, and the abductor is a lady, like a middle-aged lady, who I think she refers to herself as Miss Burton.
Yep.
Played by...
Christina Bauer von Straten.
To wrap it up, the abductor, the lady, she kills the cop. Now it's Bobby trying to get away from her, but also get his friend. In that process, Ms. Burton shoots Bobby in the leg. He is able to get Kevin out of the house, and as they're sort of running away in the woods, she catches up to them, and right as she's about to kill one of them, a cop shoots her in the chest, or in the back. The end.
Yep.
Okay. What do you want to say first? We were talking, obviously. I think this subject matter is very disturbing. And I think it can be done in a way that is effective. Because obviously it's upsetting, creepy, all the things. But somehow this film doesn't execute it in a way that I thought felt serious.
It takes your regular kidnap formula and slap some sensationalism on top of it, but not in a way that's actually really going there because everything's very suggested. But then in kind of camp parameters, especially with the casting of this particular woman as Mrs. Burton.
The worst part of the film to me is the casting of that character. because first of all, they're in what appears to be a small town, because the film opens with Bobby and Kevin in like a large park. It looks like they're either going to softball practice or have returned. I think they're going because they say we have to get to practice, yeah. And they're talking about their hopes and dreams together, which I think the dialogue is a problem, but
Yeah.
they are talking about their hopes and dreams, but they're in this big field. So, and then the house that the abductor's in, it seems like they're in a smaller town.
Yes.
So this lady, the actor playing the abductor, she is fully snatched.
Yeah.
This lady is getting 60 cc's of Botox every 3 months and fillers, and
But it's styled like a puritanical spinster.
but it's styled like a sister wife, and like it just doesn't match. And I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy this actor in something else, because she reminded me of that lady from Jacob's Wife.
Barbara Crampton.
Yeah, so I think in a more camp role, she would be very appropriate. But in this movie, it just felt so inappropriate.
Sure, I think just a lot of it really doesn't work, including kind of the boys and their dynamic. I do think Lonnie Chavis is gives a decent performance.
He fares better than the other one, yeah.
But yeah, just their commitment to what, since there's no time spent on characterization.
The choreo. Okay, so when the creep, who is about to abuse Kevin, is startled by Bobby upstairs, and then comes upstairs, and they sort of have an exchange that was creepy for like a nanosecond.
Sure.
But then the pacing and
Well, yes, it spends too much time in this prolonged cat and mouse in the house kind of game, which can be that can be interesting if you think of Don't Breathe, which
Sure.
I think was a film that did a really good job with similar parameters. But
what I was going to say about the creep is, so the way he's killed is Bobby grabs like a teapot, which I think he thought was going to be hot water, and throws it on the creep, but it's not hot. So now there's water on the floor. Then Bobby grabs a big knife, and the creep goes to sort of grab Bobby and slips in the water and hits his head on like the counter. So he's unconscious on the ground, and Bobby's like checking him out. And of course, he sort of like regains consciousness, and he does like a sit-up into the knife, which made me laugh because that makes me think of the comedian Samore. She has a joke about how like her friend was being abused by her boyfriend, and she kept saying, "No, he's not hitting me. He's just walking into the punches." that's how corny that scene looked. Like he just sort of gets up slowly and then like pushes himself.
Or like in
into
the Cell Block Tango, like he walked into my knife 10 times.
Right. That was corny.
I just really wanted to try to understand how this like pedo brothel works for this woman in this small town, and how she doesn't do a better job of protecting it if that's her cash cow. Like you don't kill a cop that's been called here.
Oh my God.
Like just so much of that didn't make any sense.
Right.
And then two scenes in particular. There's a sequence where she's chopping down a bathroom door, a la The Shining, which seems really like copying from The Shining, and then there's a scene where she's facing off with Bobby, I think in the basement, and all her dialogue is terrible, to the degree where he finally like bonks her on the head and ties her and handcuffs her to a pipe. It's like, thank God, stops her from talking. But that's where we get all of this information where, according to the parameters of this film, like pedophiles don't like little black kids.
Yes, because she tells Bobby like, like the customers don't like boys like you, which I presume is because he's black.
And then she calls him like a tough boy.
She seems to be very hostile towards him, and I think it's because of his race, which I thought was very strange.
Well, she was just going to leave him locked in the trunk.
Like, bitch, you are abducting boys for sex. Like, you have...
But
I don't know.
I guess the one silver lining to being a little black kid is the pedophiles don't want you. Is that what this film is saying?
No comment. Okay, something that really bothered me about this film were the cars.
Yeah, the cop cars.
We see like 4 cop cars, and they are all like early 90s model cruisers, but it's set in modern time. I was so bothered by that. Also, the creep who comes in the beginning, after he's killed, Bobby's like, "Oh, I'm gonna drive off in this car to get help," and Kevin's like, "You don't know how to drive." So Bobby gets in the car and starts pushing buttons that make no sense, like trying to turn on the radio to
well,
turn
when
on...
you're a kid, like...
I don't know. I was driving at 13, so I don't know, but He's doing things that don't make sense. But this car is old. It's like an early 80s model something. And it has like a remote fob to unlock the door, which I thought was so crazy. Also, it was a manual transmission. There's no way that boy was able to start. You have to do things to start a manual. That really bothered me in conjunction with the cop cars being so old.
Yeah, they were distractingly
Yeah.
looking. But strangely, I thought of the film Cop Car a couple times watching this with Kevin Bacon, where those two kids steal his car.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
The scene where Bobby moves the creep's body, because when he realizes that the abductor is returning to the house, he thinks, oh, I have to like clean up the dead body. So he like starts cleaning up the blood, and that just seems so. I don't know.
It just doesn't work. But there are ways that I think you could tell this story because things like this do happen that could be creepy and interesting. This is arguably, I'm questioning the taste level of the filmmakers.
Yes. I think this film is in poor taste. That's what I think.
And you mentioned like at least 5 times watching it that you really wanted Mrs. Burton to look like the trashy white lady in Kidnap with Halle Berry.
Yes. Well, and I love the movie Kidnap and The Call, both starring Halle Berry with similar themes. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason you did a better job of explaining why I thought those films were better. And it's because the central character...
Well, because we are invested in the fears being displayed by the central character. Like Halle Berry's this mother or this phone call, this 911 operator. You become invested in them, in their emotions.
And in this film, the central character is Bobby. And he just can't carry the story. It's just watching this kid flail about and kind of try to figure things out.
Well, no, because immediately it starts off where we're playing cat and mouse, where we need that characterization to be invested in feeling for them and fearing for them. And sure, like I don't want to see this little kid get like raped and beaten, and killed. But at the same time, that's what the storytelling is supposed to do for us, is to draw us in this way.
I have a note that says the Miss Burton is selling kids for sex to pay for her Botox.
Yeah, you did say that, during that. Yeah, she's just so off in so many ways, and I agree. Like you said, it might as well be Faye Dunaway playing that role. I would love to see that. But
when Bobby first finds Kevin, after the creep is killed, though, I thought the dialogue for the kids, because when they're first talking about their hopes and dreams in the beginning of the film, which is to establish their deep connection, I thought it was so awkward. It almost felt like Romeo and Juliet. It had a romantic sort of, whatever. I'm not trying to say little kids can be gay, whatever. I just think that it felt very off. Like, I don't know. That just felt so weird.
Well, I think they had to do something to establish why Bobby would run into the house rather than go for help. Like, he's very deeply emotionally connected to...
But I didn't need that because, like you just said a couple minutes ago, like, these kids, they're not making the best decisions and when they're in distress. And I don't know that I needed them to have, like, this Romeo and Juliet style connection.
This dream trip to California.
And then they talk about their dream trip to California together to sit on the beach. That was crunch. But what I was going to say is, so I think the dialogue, I think Kevin, the actor playing Kevin's acting is a little crunchy, because when Bobby finally gets to him, like he finds a key to unlock the basement, blah, 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 the way Kevin reacts to him, you would have thought he had been chained up for a year.
Yes.
It was very Lifetime. We just watched that Lifetime movie based on that Joseph, that guy in...
Fritzl?
Yes.
I didn't watch that.
Remember, my sister and I were howling watching.
Yeah, but I wasn't watching that.
Right.
That's based on Joseph Fritzl?
I think it's inspired by...
I remember following that case closely.
I'm gonna flash it up on the screen. The title, that Lifetime movie is way better. Like, if you want to, like, a kidnap sort of... But anyway, the way Kevin reacted when Bobby found him, you would have thought he had been chained in that basement for a year.
Well,
when really only like an hour had passed.
Well, and the title is so misleading too, because the boy we're focusing on is not the one behind the door.
Right.
He's the
one.
I
guess he is behind the door that she chops down like The Shining.
Sure, but mostly he's running around the house. It should be the boy running around the house. But
the only scene that kind of made me, like, that I thought was effective in making me react in a non-negative way was the kidnapper shoots Bobby in the leg, and then after he handcuffs her to some pipes, she gets a hold of him, and she's trying to hurt him, so she sticks her finger in his wound. And Bobby's holding like garden shears, so he cuts off her finger. So now her finger is in his wound, and then he kind of pulls it out and flicks it.
Also,
I thought that was funny.
It's funny, but also campy because you.
But it is campy.
Cutting a finger is not like cutting a hot dog with
Sure,
shears.
sure.
Like you had to get in there. I would imagine.
That's all I have. Overall, I think this movie's in poor taste. I can imagine the kind of comments people will have about this film, and they won't be positive. Because, I mean, the subject matter is so disturbing, and it's not handled in an elegant way.
So it's an exploitation film.
Yeah. So, for that reason, I would give this film, like, one and a half?
I think 1.5 is fine.
Out of 5?
Again, I think that young Lonnie Chavis does quite a good job with what he's given, but ultimately...
He was also giving me Octavia Spencer.
He does not look
He looks like Octavia Spencer.
But it's just, I think you described it when we were watching it as tepid, and that's just really kind of how it feels. Like, there's nothing really to get excited about or to defend in it.
For sure. Anything else?
No.
Bye.
Bye.